The current market is pretty wild and there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to selling your home, and in this video I wanted to go over a few of those things. My name is Phil Wells, I'm a real estate agent here in Spokane. I love helping people and guiding them through the process of their move, whether they're buying, selling, or both. In this video we're going to talk about a few of those things that you want to consider when it comes to selling your home, as well as a few real life scenarios you might find yourself in right now. The first thing to consider is that, yeah, you've guessed it, interest rates are low. I know it's boring to hear the same thing over and over again, but right now interest rates are about as low as it's possible to get them. What this means for home buyers is that they have access to more money than ever before. This has a direct impact on you as a home seller, because now you have an abundance of buyers out there that are able to pay more for your home than you might think. Here in Spokane, we just got the figures for February, and when compared to last year, median home prices are up 21%. The S&P 500 barely outperformed the Spokane housing market in the same period. That's absolutely crazy. So even if you bought only a couple of years ago, you could still have built up enough equity for it to make sense to sell. So you might get a good price for your home, but I'm sure you'd agree there's more to consider than just the sale price. Unless you're moving out of town, the market that you sell in is the market that you buy in. Unless you're doing something like offloading a rental property or selling a deceased relative home or something like that. So you will likely encounter the same competitive market as any other buyer would. Now, if you're upsizing and you're buying a nicer, larger, more expensive home, then you'll likely be taking yourself into a less competitive market space. However, if you're doing the opposite and you're downsizing, you'll likely be entering a more competitive market space. Now, there are strategies out there that can make your offers more competitive, and you can make both scenarios work, even in today's market. So if you are interested in buying and selling in the same market, reach out to an agent and discuss and see what kind of game plan you can put together. Preferably me, if that market you're in happens to be Spokane. The next thing to consider is the time that it will take you to identify and buy your next property. If you list your home for sale in this market, you're likely to get competitive offers within the first few days and be under contract the next week. Whereas the process of identifying and getting your offer accepted on your next property might take you a little bit more time. So that's just one more thing to factor into your overall moving plan. Fortunately, as a seller in this market, you are in a strong position to do things like make your home sale contingent on you finding a new home, or even negotiate extra time to stay in your old home to facilitate you buying a new one. Another thing to be aware of is that in a market with such an upward trend in terms of price, it's possible that an appraiser might turn around to the buyer's lender and tell them that they can't justify the price the buyer has offered. This low appraisal will create a gap between what's being offered and what the appraiser can justify. Here in Spokane, a lot of agents are preempting this issue by saying in their offers that the buyers are prepared to bring extra money to cover that gap should it occur. Now, an appraisal gap doesn't always happen, but it's possible, particularly if you live in an area where there just haven't been a lot of home sales in the last 6 to 12 months. Again, as a seller in this market, you are in a strong position if these negotiations do arise, but it's just another thing to be aware of. Now, I wanted to explore a few scenarios you might find yourself in right now. The first scenario, you bought a modest home a few years ago. Maybe you were a first-time home buyer, or you moved from out of town and just bought whatever was available to you. And now you're starting to think it might be nice to level up. Well, now you might find that your equity has been turbocharged by the current seller's market and you're in a position to level up. You could likely sell into a super competitive price point. Here in Spokane, let's call that the $200,000 to $400,000 range, and buy in a slightly less competitive price point, let's call it the $450,000 plus range. In this scenario, your move isn't guaranteed to be smooth sailing, but at least you're heading into less resistance, not more. The second scenario, imagine you're in a home that's just too large. For whatever reason, you no longer need this much house and you're ready to downsize. In this scenario, you're going to be here in Spokane in a home worth around $500,000 and you want to downsize to something much smaller, maybe around the $250,000 to $300,000 range. This will mean selling into a less competitive price point at $500,000 and entering a much more competitive space at $250,000 to $300,000. It's still doable. Talk to an agent and figure out a game plan. Likelihood is that being cash heavy from your recent sale will allow you to be more competitive when it comes to buying your new home. Okay, looking now at scenario 3, you own a home here in Spokane and you're leaving town. You're thinking about potentially selling the home or keeping it as a rental. Now, check with a local property manager and see what you could likely get for rents and do the math. However, it does feel like rents in Spokane are rising at a lower rate than property prices are, and it might make a lot more sense to sell. If you are thinking about selling, it's worth doing this while the property is still your primary residence. This can have some capital gains tax advantages, and obviously check with your CPA on this one. Also, in the current market, you're likely to get a quick sale, so it's not going to add too much stress to the move. That's it for this video. Selling your home isn't always just about the cash. It's usually just one side of the coin when it comes to your overall move. So I would encourage you to plan the process through all the way from listing your home to buying your new home. And of course, it wouldn't be fair to mention that you can benefit from the current market conditions without actually selling your home. You could refinance to a 15-year mortgage, you could establish a HELOC, or refinance and pull some money out and work on that project you've always wanted to. Like I said, my name is Phil Wells. If you or anyone you know is thinking about selling their home here in Spokane, please get in contact with me, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I'd be honored to work with you. Until the next one, thanks for watching.